Hi, this is Ronnie Foster, and you're watching First Look.
Hello, I'm Don Was, president of Blue Note Records, and Ronnie Foster is one of the preeminent jazz and funk organists of our time. The 5 albums he recorded for Blue Note in the 1970s were extremely popular at the time of their release and have only grown in stature over the decades because hip hop artists have sampled his work and turned new generations of fans onto his music. Ronnie's recorded with a wide array of artists ranging from Grant Green, George Benson, and Stanley Turrentine to Stevie Wonder and the Jackson 5, and now half a century since the release. Can you believe we're saying that?
Yeah, I know.
half a century since the release of his first Blue Note album. Right. He's returning to Blue Note Records for the release of his first album of new music in 36 years. It's an album called Reboot. Great title, man. And additionally, his first album from 1972, Two-Headed Freep, has been remastered by Kevin Gray and recently reissued on 180-gram vinyl as part of the Blue Note Classic Vinyl Series. Ronnie, welcome to First Look and welcome back to the Blue Note family, although in our hearts you never left, of course.
Yes, thank you. I am so happy to be back, and I'm ecstatic over this, over the moon, and so excited to be back, with the family at the musical dinner table.
I like that. That's good. Well, congratulations on Reboot. I think it's your best record to date, which is really saying a whole lot. But before we get to the new album, we're thinking that this first look might be a two-parter, because you've borne witness to a much misunderstood and underappreciated era in Blue Note history, the funky 1970s. And I'd love to ask you some questions about that as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm ready.
Well, certainly, when you're a young musician growing up in Buffalo, New York, I'm assuming you must have had some awareness of Blue Note, certainly of Jimmy Smith's records, right?
Oh, well, yes, Jimmy's the king. And that's where that started. I started studying with Jimmy when I was 12. And, so we have a long history. Beautiful guy. I mean, if you don't mind, I'll tell you the story of when I first spoke to Jimmy.
Please.
Kind of crazy. It's a funny story. So there's a club called the Royal Arms in Buffalo where everybody played. I met, all the masters there over a period of time when I was younger. And the owner, I called him. I said, where's Jimmy staying? Because he was coming in that Monday night, and I said, yeah, where's Jimmy staying? He said, oh, he's at some hotel on Main Street or whatever. I can't remember the name of the hotel. So I called, and this was the conversation, which is, it's crazy. But anyway, so he answers the phone, in that unmistakable voice of Jimmy Smith. Hello? I said, Mr. Smith, this is Ronnie Foster. I'm a little young organist. You got to show me something. Boy, when you hear me play, you won't want to play anymore. and I said, no, Mr. Smith, really, I love to play. You got to show me something. So, and the next thing he says, boy, you're not listening to me. When you hear me play, you're going to want to throw your organ away. And I said, no, really, Mr. Smith. And you know what he was doing? He was testing me, see how hungry I was, right? Mm-hmm. So he says, what time you get out of school? I said, 3:00. Meet me at the club. And that started our whole relationship. It was amazing.
And did he teach you about drawbars and
no, it was about it was more about I would do some things and he says, oh, hey, go here or whatever. And I remember the one finger thing that Jimmy would do. A lot of people do it with two fingers. They did it right there. Mm-hmm. When I tried to do that with two fingers, he hit my hand. He took his thumb mm-hmm. and he did that right with his thumb, next finger, all 5 fingers separately.
Wow.
Right. And I went like,
what does that look like? Right? Is it like?
Yeah. Well, when you do it like that, on the organ, it's like that. Yeah. But how I kind of made it my own thing is I do it with a chord.
Oh, dig. Yeah.
Right. I and it's harder on piano than it is.
Wow.
It takes a lot of energy. Yeah. I mean, his involvement in my life was pretty serious, because at 14, he introduced me to George Benson.
Wow.
Right. Just George was playing, in fact, with Lonnie, Marion Booker and Ronnie Cuber, that group they had with Lonnie. And they were coming in the next night. And George is a huge fan of Jimmy. And he came in the night before to catch the last set. And we were in the back, and Jimmy just, George, meet a little young organ player, Ronnie, like that. So George and I started hanging out.
Wow.
At 14, we started hanging out. He's like a brother. I talk to him every 2 weeks, And then after Lonnie left, I was playing with him on weekends. When I was in school, I'd be on a Greyhound bus going back and forth.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, it's,
I want to know about that first session with Grant Green, where you came to the attention of Blue Note's founder, Francis Wolff.
Right.
Tell me about that day, and about Francis Wolff, who I really, never met. He's
yeah. It was a crazy thing. I was out on road with Grant, and he says, "Yeah, we're going to do this record." I was like, "Oh man, I'd never done a record before, right?" So we did the gig, that recording, and at the end of the night. And Francis was there both the nights.
Mm-hmm.
But the last night, he walked up to me right after we finished. Ronnie, how would you like to have a deal with Blue Note? I said, yeah. What are you going to say? No. So, that was kind of put into place. And then, unfortunately, he passed. And, Blue Note was kind of in a gray area. They were looking for somebody to take over, Blue Note. And that's when Dr. George Butler came in. And I called George when I found out who was, running the company. I said, "Hey, I had this deal with Francis, and, can we do it?" And he says, "Well, where are you playing?" I said, "Oh, I'm in Detroit." At the time, had a thing in Detroit with my trio. And he says, "Well, I'll fly out and check you out." So he came out after the set. He says, "Yeah, I'll sign you." Wow. And Chunky was the tune that really caught his ear, because it was, a little different than everybody was doing. So
what was George Butler like? Did he get involved with your music?
Yes, George was, George was kind of like, GQ, this his persona, he always dressed. I said, "Yeah, George, I want to get dressed like you one day." Very, he knew music, and he was very wide open to newer things. He had those kind of ears, who's brought to the scene. Mm-hmm. But no, he was always very supportive. When I signed the deal, I said, "Hey, George," I said, "there's an organ that I rent when we play in Detroit." And I said, "I want to buy it." He says, "Well, how much do you need?" I said, $3,000. He says, "Okay, here you go." And he gave me. Nice. Yeah, there, that stuff is very important.
I'm wondering what it must be like to think back to like recording Two-Headed Freak. And you could not have imagined like Tribe Called Quest coming along. All the things that are just that we'd be reissuing it 50 years later and it would become a #1 jazz record like it did.
I'm at the gym, I play basketball 5 days a week, and, I'm playing with kids young, like top ages, maybe 40, but a lot of the kids are into hip hop. And, somebody will mention, "Hey, old school, do you know what he's done musically?" And they find, the J. Cole, Tribe Called, "Are you kidding me, man?" You know what I'm saying? It's kind of a little freak out thing. Yeah. But no, I just, it's a blessing. You know what I mean? I wrote that tune when I was 18 in Indianapolis.
Wow.
I could see I still have the vision of me walking down the street, having that tune in my head, and so was cool, man. You never know. You wake up one day and boom, Yeah.
Do you have a favorite from your 70s Blue Note albums?
Well, other than Two-Headed Freak, which,
Hmm.
you know, would be number one for obvious reasons.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Cheshire Cat on the Avenue, and a lot of Live at Montreux,
Mhm.
you know, because it was a little bit freer. There's something, you know, you always go back, you listen to stuff when you were younger, you go like, ugh, you know what I mean? That, you know, that's normal. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I would say that would be my top three. You know, I just think because it represents all of me, you know.
Mhm. Man, it's so interesting to speak with you. Thank you so much. We're going to take
Right.
a little break, and then
Right.
we're going
Okay.
to return in a separate part 2 video in which
Okay.
we're going to discuss your new record, and we'll see you all there.
Okay. See y'all there. Peace.
If you enjoyed First Look and would like to see more, please hit the subscribe button and also click the bell icon. That way, you'll be notified when we post our next video.